It was one of those ordinary evenings that suddenly felt anything but ordinary. Emma had just settled into the living room with a cup of chamomile tea when her phone buzzed with a message she never expected. Her husband, David, had stepped out for a quick errand, leaving her alone with a quiet house that suddenly seemed to hum with anticipation. The message was from David's uncle, Mr. Harris, a man she had only met a few times, always polite, reserved, and kind. But tonight, his words carried an unusual weight. "Emma, could we speak in private when David returns?" it read. That simple sentence sent a shiver down her spine. She tried to brush it off. After all, Mr. Harris was older, wise, and had always been a calming presence. But something about this message felt different, urgent even. She poured herself another cup of tea and tried to steady her racing thoughts. What could he possibly want to discuss? When David finally returned, cheerful and unsuspecting, Emma felt a sudden nervousness she couldn't explain. She greeted him with a smile, careful not to reveal her inner turmoil. "Hey, how was the store?" she asked, her voice lighter than she felt. David shrugged, setting the groceries down. "Same old. Did you get that package I asked for?" "Yes," Emma replied, keeping her tone casual. But her mind was already on the upcoming conversation. She had always liked Mr. Harris. He had a way of speaking that made people feel seen, and she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever he wanted to say would change something, though she had no idea what. Later that evening, after David had gone to freshen up, Emma received a call from Mr. Harris. His voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable seriousness underneath. "Emma, thank you for taking the time to speak with me," he said. "I know this is sudden, but I need to share something important with you, something I couldn't say in front of David." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She nodded, even though he couldn't see her. "Of course, Mr. Harris, I'm listening." There was a pause, almost like he was gathering courage. Then he spoke, slowly, deliberately. "I've watched you and David for a long time. You both have a special bond, and I want to make sure that nothing ever comes between you, especially when it comes to family matters. There's something you need to know about the way our family has handled certain things in the past." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had always been close to David, but family secrets were another matter entirely. She leaned forward, straining to catch every word. "I can't discuss this with David yet," Mr. Harris continued. "He wouldn't understand, and it could hurt him. But I trust you to hear this, and I trust you to respond carefully. You need to know about his aunt's accident years ago. It wasn't as it seemed. There were decisions made that weren't easy, and there's a chance you can help guide David through some truths he's never known." Emma's mind reeled. Questions swirled like a storm. Why hadn't David known? Why was this coming to her? And most importantly, how could she possibly help him if she didn't have the full story? "I understand," she said softly, "but what should I do?" "Listen carefully, observe, and support him when the time is right," Mr. Harris advised. "Sometimes the truth isn't easy, but with the right guidance, it can bring more love than pain. That's all I can tell you for now." The line went silent, leaving Emma staring at her phone. Her tea had grown cold, forgotten. Her heart felt both heavy and hopeful. She realized in that moment that everything she thought she knew about David's family, and perhaps even their life together, was about to change. She set her cup down, breathing deeply. Somehow she knew that what came next wouldn't just affect David, it would affect her too. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Emma stared at the clock, waiting for David to come back into the room, her mind buzzing with possibilities. Would he ever forgive the secrets she hadn't yet shared with him? Or would this revelation pull them closer in ways she hadn't imagined? The sound of the door opening startled her. David stepped in, smiling, oblivious to the storm swirling around her. Emma's heart pounded as she realized she had to find the right moment, the right words, to start preparing him for what was coming. But how could she tell him anything without knowing all the details herself? The evening had begun like any other, but Emma knew deep down it would not end that way. Something monumental was about to unfold. The next morning, Emma woke with a strange mix of excitement and anxiety. The message from Mr. Harris had planted a seed in her mind, and now she couldn't shake it. She tried to go about her usual routine, making breakfast, checking emails, even watering the plants, but every little sound reminded her of the conversation she had the night before. David, as usual, was cheerful. He hummed while pouring coffee and laughed at something on the news. Emma watched him, her heart full of affection, yet shadowed by uncertainty. She loved him deeply, but she couldn't ignore the weight of Mr. Harris's words. There was a secret, a part of his past that David hadn't shared, and somehow she was now a keeper of that knowledge. She decided to visit Mr. Harris that afternoon. She needed context, details, anything that would help her understand the situation before she spoke to David. When she arrived at his cozy home, the familiar scent of old books and fresh coffee greeted her. He led her to the living room, where sunlight spilled across the hardwood floor. "Thank you for coming," he said, his tone gentle but firm. "I know this isn't easy."
"And I promise I won't overwhelm you. I just need you to understand what's at stake." Emma nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I want to help him. I don't want to hurt him." Mr. Harris smiled faintly. "You won't, but the timing has to be right. David has always been sensitive about family matters. Certain truths were kept from him to protect him, but now the past is catching up, and it's time someone he trusts helps him navigate it." He paused, taking a deep breath. Years ago, David's aunt, his mother's sister, was involved in an accident. On the surface, it seemed like a simple misfortune, but the reality was far more complicated. There were misunderstandings, mistakes, and decisions that no one took lightly. What David was told, it wasn't the whole story. Emma's stomach tightened. "I see, but what exactly happened?" Mr. Harris looked away, his expression clouded with regret. "I can't share every detail, not yet. Some things David isn't ready to hear, but I can tell you this. The choices that were made back then shaped how the family communicates today, and now they're about to affect him and you more directly than ever before." Emma swallowed hard. She realized that the challenge wasn't just knowing the truth. It was figuring out how to help David understand it without hurting him. "So I'm supposed to guide him?" she asked quietly. "Yes," Mr. Harris said. "You've always had a calming presence for him. He trusts you in ways he doesn't even recognize. You need to be patient, watch, listen, and support him. When the moment comes, the right words and the right timing will matter more than the facts themselves." The weight of responsibility settled over Emma like a soft but heavy blanket. She wanted to do everything perfectly, but she knew that real life rarely gave anyone that luxury. Still, she felt a spark of hope. If she could help him, if she could be that anchor in the storm, perhaps they could face whatever was coming together. As she left Mr. Harris's house, the autumn air crisp against her cheeks, she felt a mixture of fear and resolve. She would have to tread carefully, balancing honesty with care. She didn't yet know what the first step would be, but she promised herself she wouldn't fail David. Back home, David was waiting in the living room, scrolling on his tablet. He looked up and smiled, completely unaware of the inner turmoil Emma carried. She hugged him lightly, holding on for a brief moment longer than usual. "You've got a busy day ahead," she asked, keeping her voice steady. He laughed softly. "Not really, just the usual meetings. Why?" Emma shook her head, forcing a small smile. "Nothing, just thinking about you, that's all." She excused herself to the kitchen, her mind racing. How could she bring this up to him? And more importantly, how could she ensure that the truth would strengthen their bond instead of creating distance? Later that evening, as they sat together on the couch, the tension finally broke when David turned to her with a question. "Emma, you seem distracted lately. Is something on your mind?" Her heart skipped a beat. This was it, the moment she had been anticipating and dreading. She wanted to tell him everything, that she knew she had to be careful. She needed him to be ready, or the truth could be too heavy. I just want you to know that I'm always here for you," she said softly,
her voice trembling just enough to hint at the depth of her emotions. "Whatever comes, we'll face it together." David reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "Always," he said, but in his eyes there was curiosity, a subtle awareness that something had shifted, though he couldn't yet name it. Emma held his hand, feeling a swell of both love and fear. She understood, more clearly than ever, that the journey ahead would test them in ways they hadn't imagined, but she also knew that their bond was strong enough to endure it, if only they approached it with patience, compassion, and trust. That night she lay awake, listening to the quiet rhythm of their home. Every creak, every whisper of wind outside reminded her of the delicate path ahead. She couldn't yet reveal the full story, but she could prepare herself, and more importantly, prepare David, for the moment when the truth would finally come to light.
And somewhere deep inside, Emma felt a flicker of hope that this revelation could bring them closer than ever before. The sound of a soft knock on the bedroom door made her jump slightly. It was David, standing there with a smile that didn't reach his eyes fully, and an expression that made her heart tighten with both love and worry. The following morning dawned chilly and golden, the kind of sunlight that made everything feel both hopeful and fragile. Emma poured herself a cup of tea, her thoughts still swirling around the conversation with Mr. Harris. She knew the truth was waiting, and yet she had to tread carefully. David wasn't ready to hear it, not fully, but small hints could prepare him, gently, for what was coming. David came down the stairs humming a tune from his childhood. Emma smiled, trying to match his cheerfulness, but she couldn't shake the sense of urgency in her chest. She knew she had to find a way to start the conversation without overwhelming him. "David," she said softly, setting her cup down, "can we talk for a moment?" He looked at her, puzzled but attentive. "Of course. Everything okay?" Emma took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "It's about your family and something from the past. I don't want to upset you, but there are things you might not fully know, things that could help you understand some of the decisions made long ago." David frowned slightly, concern etching his features. "What do you mean?"
Emma reached for his hand, holding it tightly. "I spoke with Uncle Harris. He shared something with me, something important, and he trusts us to handle it carefully. I don't know all the details yet, but I wanted you to know that I'm here for you, always." David blinked, as if trying to process her words. "Uncle Harris? What's going on?" Emma shook her head, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and love. "I can't tell you everything yet, not until we know how to approach it, but it has to do with your aunt from years ago. There were circumstances that weren't exactly as you were told." David's eyes softened with curiosity and worry. "Are you saying something was hidden from me?" Emma nodded. "Not to hurt you, but to protect you. I know it sounds confusing. I know it might feel frustrating, but I promise, when the time is right, we'll understand everything together." David leaned back, running a hand through his hair. I don't know what to say. I trust you, Emma. I really do. But it's a lot." "I know," Emma whispered. "I know it's a lot, but you're not alone. We'll face this together, and we'll do it slowly, step by step. Just be open, okay? That's all I ask for now." David took a deep breath, nodding. "Okay, I'll try. I don't fully understand, but I'll try." For a moment, silence hung between them, a quiet, fragile understanding that something significant was shifting in their lives. Emma could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders, but she also felt a strange sense of relief. The first seeds had been planted, and now they would grow together. Later that day, as Emma went about her errands, she kept replaying the conversation in her mind. Every detail mattered. Every reaction from David could guide her next step. She needed to be careful, thoughtful, and patient. The truth wasn't a sudden thunderstorm. It was more like a gentle rain, meant to nourish rather than destroy.
When she returned home, David was in the living room, flipping through old photo albums. He smiled softly, pointing to a picture of his aunt with a mischievous grin. "I remember this day," he said quietly. "We had so much fun, even though Mom kept scolding us." Emma watched him, her heart swelling with love and sadness at the same time. She realized just how delicate this process would be. Memories, love, and trust were all intertwined, and she had to navigate them carefully if she wanted to help him understand the truth without losing the bond they shared. As the sun began to set, casting long, golden shadows across the room, Emma felt a quiet resolve settle within her. She couldn't rush David, but she could prepare the path for him. And maybe, just maybe, this journey into the past could bring them closer than ever before. That evening, a soft knock at the door startled Emma. She opened it to find Mr. Harris standing there, a small envelope in his hand.
"Emma," he said quietly, "I think it's time you had this. It's part of the story you'll need to share with David. But remember, patience is everything." Her hands trembled as she accepted the envelope, her mind racing with questions. What was inside? And would David be ready for what it revealed? As Mr. Harris nodded and left, Emma realized that the real journey was just beginning. The moment of truth was approaching, and she had to decide how and when to guide David through it. Her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The truth was no longer a distant whisper. It was about to walk into the room, and nothing would ever be the same. The next morning, the envelope sat on the kitchen counter, its contents still a mystery. Emma stared at it, her hands hovering just above the paper, unsure whether to open it immediately or wait until the evening when David was home. She knew this was more than just a simple letter. It was the key to a family truth that could change everything. David arrived home earlier than usual, carrying a bouquet of flowers he had picked himself. He smiled at Emma, his eyes warm, completely unaware of the storm about to unfold. "For you," he said, handing her the flowers. "Just because." Emma took them, smiling, her heart aching with love. She knew that soon she would have to bridge the gap between love and truth. "Thank you, David," she whispered. "They're beautiful." After dinner, when the house was quiet and the soft glow of the lamps cast gentle shadows across the walls, Emma decided it was time. She retrieved the envelope and placed it on the coffee table between them. "David, there's something I need to show you," she said softly. He looked at her, curiosity flickering in his eyes. "What is it?" Emma took a deep breath. "It's from Uncle Harris. It explains some things about your aunt, about the past. I think it will help you understand some family decisions you've never known about." David frowned slightly, leaning forward. "I don't know if I'm ready, Emma. This sounds serious." "I know," Emma said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "And I won't lie to you. It is serious. But I promise, I'm here with you. We'll get through this together." With trembling hands, she tore open the envelope. Inside was a carefully written letter, along with a few faded photographs. David picked them up, his eyes widening as he recognized familiar faces and moments he had long forgotten. The letter revealed details of an accident involving his aunt years ago, an accident that had been misrepresented to him as something minor. In truth, it had caused difficult family decisions, misunderstandings, and long-lasting consequences. It wasn't anyone's fault, but it had shaped the way the family communicated and the ways certain truths were withheld. David sat back, speechless. The weight of the information pressed on him, but he also felt a strange sense of clarity. "So, everything I thought I knew wasn't exactly true?" he asked quietly. Emma nodded, taking his hand. "I know it's a lot, but knowing the truth now doesn't have to change how we feel about each other or about our family. It just helps us understand it better." He looked at her, his eyes softening with gratitude and a hint of vulnerability. "Thank you for showing me this, for helping me see it.
I don't think I would have understood it on my own." Emma smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "You don't have to face anything alone, David. I'll always be here to help you navigate it." They spent the evening going through the photographs in the letter, piecing together the story of the past. With every detail, David began to see the reasons behind the family's choices, the protectiveness, the secrets, the moments of silence that had once puzzled him. And with every revelation, he felt a deeper connection to Emma, who had guided him with patience, love, and understanding. As the night grew darker, a quiet peace settled over them. The revelation hadn't destroyed their world. It had added layers of understanding, empathy, and trust. David leaned against Emma, his hand still holding hers. "I never realized how much care went into protecting me," he whispered. "I know," Emma said softly. "And now we know. We can move forward, together, with all of the truth between us." For the first time in years, David felt a sense of closure, a clarity that had been missing. The family's past was complicated, yes, but it no longer felt like a burden. It felt like a story they could carry together, with honesty, compassion, and love. Emma rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. She had feared that the truth might drive a wedge between them, but instead, it had drawn them closer. Their bond, already strong, had grown stronger, built on trust and understanding. But just as they settled into this newfound peace, a soft chime from Emma's phone broke the quiet. It was another message from Mr. Harris. "Good work. There is one final piece. Are you ready?" Emma's heart skipped a beat. Another piece? Just when they thought they had clarity, there was more to uncover. And this time, it promised to be even more revealing, more personal. The room felt suddenly charged with anticipation. David looked at her, sensing the shift, and she squeezed his hand. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. The truth had begun to unfold, but the journey was not over. One final chapter awaited, and it could change everything, once and for all. The following morning, Emma woke to the soft glow of sunlight streaming through the curtains. The previous evening's revelations still lingered in her mind, their weight now tempered by understanding and trust. David lay beside her, quiet, thoughtful, his hand resting lightly on hers. She could sense that he was bracing for whatever Mr. Harris's final piece might be. Soon, the soft chime of her phone broke the calm. Another message from Mr. Harris appeared. "Meet me today. It's time for the last part of the story. Be ready." Emma felt a flutter of nerves, but also a quiet determination. Whatever this was, it was the final puzzle piece that would complete David's understanding of the past, and she would be by his side when it happened. She shared the message with David over breakfast. "It seems Uncle Harris wants to show us something," she said gently. David's eyes met hers, a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "Another revelation? I thought we'd covered most of it." Emma shook her head. "Not yet. But this is the last one. After today, everything will finally make sense." They drove together to Mr. Harris's home, the quiet hum of the car filled with anticipation. When they arrived, he greeted them with a warm but serious expression. "Thank you for coming," he said, motioning them inside. "I know this has been a lot, but today, the story completes itself." He led them to a small study filled with old photographs, letters, and a neatly bound journal. "This," he said, handing the journal to Emma, "belonged to your aunt. It contains her thoughts, feelings, and experiences from the time of the accident and the years afterward. Reading it will give you both the clarity you need." Emma opened the journal carefully, and together with David, they began to read. The pages were filled with her aunt's reflections, her fears, her regrets, and her love for the family. It explained why certain decisions had been made, why some truths were hidden, and how deeply everyone had cared despite the misunderstandings. David listened quietly, absorbing every word. Occasionally, he would pause to look at Emma, gratitude and amazement in his eyes. "So all of this, it wasn't about keeping me in the dark to hurt me," he whispered. "It was about protecting us in the only way they knew how." Emma nodded, squeezing his hand. "Yes, and now we understand. We can carry their love and lessons forward without the fear or confusion of the past." Hours passed as they read through the journal, piecing together the final fragments of the story. By the end, David's eyes glistened with emotion, and he pulled Emma close. "I can't believe how much I didn't know," he said softly. "But I'm so grateful you helped me see it." Emma rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "I'm glad we went through it together," she said. "It wasn't easy, but we're stronger for it. And now, nothing can come between us. Not the past, not secrets, not misunderstandings." Mr. Harris watched them with a gentle smile, seeing the relief and love that filled the room. "You've both handled this with patience and care," he said. "That's what makes family bonds unbreakable."
The truth can heal when it's met with understanding, and you've both shown that. David looked at Emma, his eyes shining. Everything finally makes sense now. The confusion, the silences, the unspoken moments. It all fits. And I know one thing for certain. We face life together. Always. Emma smiled, tears of relief and joy forming in her eyes. "Always," she echoed. As they left Mr. Harris's home, the sunlight felt brighter, warmer, as if reflecting the clarity in their hearts. The past had been complicated, full of secrets and challenges, but now it had become a story of love, trust, and resilience. They had faced the truth together and emerged stronger, their bond deeper than ever. Driving home, Emma reached over and took David's hand. He squeezed it gently, a silent promise that whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The journey had begun with uncertainty and questions, but it ended with understanding and peace. And in that quiet, shared moment, everything became clear. No more secrets, no more misunderstandings. Just love, trust, and a future they would build together, stronger and brighter than ever before.